Hello, my name is Jemai Farah, and today I'm going to present you toward a theory-based measurement of culture. So, the essay explored the meaning of culture and considered new ways of conceptualizing and measuring it for global information management research. The social identity theory suggests that each individual is influenced by a variety of culture and subculture, which fused together to create one overall culture. And this approach acknowledges that different layers of culture can be intertwined in a complex way, and interrelationship between layer and specific behavior may vary depending on external circumstances. And culture has been a complex concept for over a century, studied in various academic fields such as cultural anthropology and psychology. So scholars have produced numerous definitions of culture, ranging from simple to complex, incorporating and expanding previous definition, even contradicting them. So the term culture originated in English usage in the 1871 and was later used in German as culture in 1843. And the definition of the 1950s helped establish distinction between the etymological perspective, defining culture as historically differentiated and variable mass of customary ways of functioning of human society. Cultures can be defined into three main groups: definition based on value on shared value, definition based on problem solving, and general all encompassing definition. And shared values are the central feature of culture, characterized by strong affective component and a preferences for a certain action. These values are acquired early in life through family, neighborhood, and school, become an integrated into an organized system over time. And culture is a set of value patterns shared across individuals and within group. And Parson and Chills in 1951 and Crowberry in 52 view culture as comprised of three distinct aspects: the type of cultural symbol system, type of standard values orientation, and the type of orientation action. So more like norms. And Hofstede in 1980 developed four cultural patterns: individualism and collectivism, power distance, uncertainty, avoidance, and masculinity, femininity. Later on, its Trumpenas proposed seven-dimensional culture: universalism and particularism, individualist, collectivist, neutral affective relationship, specific diffuse relationship, achievement, ascription, internal external control, and perspective of time. And researchers have attempted to capture cultural patterns in a set of those dimensions, but there's still a considerable divergence in specific nature of values that underline the culture and in the exact nature of the relationship between them. So some scholars define culture in other ways than through shared values or outcome, and tending to be more abstract and esoteric or spiritual. For example, Hall extended the concept of unconscious culture, which is out of awareness culture system that have yet to be made explicit. And this system have various features and dimensions governed by the other selection and congruence like rules. To critical question frame the theoretical conceptualization of culture, and the manner in which it is investigated can be withdrawn from that study. It's first, is culture a structural phenomenon with properties irreducible to individuals, or is it a cultural, or is culture the sum of properties of individuals that constitute the cultural group? And second, can culture be characterized by universal dimension, or should it be understood in terms of the unique characteristic by a particular conceptualization of culture? And culture may be a set of value outcomes or way of being, but most definitions of culture are atheoretical, relying on the assumption that an individual's membership in a cultural group defines the nature values they espouses. And the study proposed that the social identity theory as a candidate theory base for measuring culture, as the theory deals with the mechanism of group identification, where individuals perceive that they belong to a group or not. And if they belong to the group, they are part of the in group, while if not, they are part of the out group. And this process mark how similar individual feels to other, such as in organizational contexts like IT vendor client relationship, and the strength of the feeling of cultural similarity depends on how many characteristic individuals believe they have in common with others in the group, and self-inclusive social grouping create references for the country of origin, support for a sports club, or a gender or gender internalization of these norms, and goes beyond what others do and say and how we respond to them. And the social identity theory has been examined in various environments, including IT study of cultural similarity between vendors and clients. For example, Geffen and Straub found strong empirical evidence for that theory as relevant theory base for cultural similarity. So, to measure culture, the method of comparison and contrast is helpful. Instead of assuming that individual espouse a certain cultural value based on membership in a cultural group, individual needs to be queried as to the extent to which their values are similar to those of others in relevant culture groups, and values are perceived to be similar. And this approach is cultural specific and can be used to elicit response by embedding specific cultural values in scenario along with other distractor variable. And the proposed approach acknowledge the complex interaction between different layers of culture and their influence on behavior. And it is used that dynamic onion metaphor to describe a situation where layers closet to the core are more salient, but understanding that inner layers occasionally exchange places with outer layers due to external circumstances. And measures of person social identification with others presumed to be members of a given culture could serve as a surrogate for an individual cultural ties. And the approach assumed that the layering of the onion that makes up for a person culture is not permanent and immutable set of relationship. In certain circumstances, the subculture associated with religious value is most important, while in other circumstances, the value are most um, critical to an individual's thinking or behavior. Are they and how they incorporate that subcultural values? So culture must be measured at an individual level, even though it is assumed to be a group level phenomenon. And the individual unit of analysis is both appropriate and meaningful. And once the individual level data is aggregated, it can be possible to assert that certain cultural characteristics do or do not belong to certain culture. In a study on the impact of culture on international information management, the researchers are exploring the concept of subculture such as ethnicity, nationality, religion, organization, and urban rural. These social groups are often relevant in cross cultural research and measurement. The strengths of identification with this subcultural can provide an adequate surrogate for culture. And the layers of the onion represent the most personally relevant values in a specific context, with most important value being closest to the core, and the extent to which an individual identifies with a particular behavior or circumstances will vary across context, and the thickness of each layer signals the level of similarity between individuals and the cultural group that espouse that specific value. Aggregating response across respondent enable research to infer the values espoused by certain cultural group. So, in conclusion, a possible solution to the problem of cross cultural studies is adopting a theory based conceptualization and measurements of an individual culture, and measuring the strengths of a particular culture features as a part of data gathering in positivist research. And this approach acknowledged the multiplicity of diverse cultural influence received and by individual contributing to unique idiosyncratic set of value. And the text provide a comprehensive overview of various theories and concepts related to culture, organizational behavior, and communication. These studies explore various aspects of human value, such as modernity change, cultural influences, and the role of media in shaping those organizational behavior. Yes, thank you for listening to my presentation. That was it.